Hi, my name is Pedro Israel Orta, and I am on the Rebound with Matt Doherty.
This is the Rebound Podcast with Coach Matt Doherty.
Welcome to the Rebound. I'm Matt Doherty, and I'll be your host. I became passionate about leadership after losing my job at North Carolina. In 2001, I was voted National Coach of the Year. 2 short years later, I was asked to resign. That sent me on a journey to find what was missing in my life. I found that I needed leadership and the principles of leadership. They were critical components that I needed to improve upon. I needed to learn and grow. With me today is Pedro Israel Orta. He has worked 19 years for the U.S. government, served 7 years in the Middle East, was an inspector for the Office of the Inspector General for the intelligence community. He's a CIA whistleblower, the author of The Broken Whistle, a deep state run amok. Pedro, thank you for being on the show. Tell the audience some of the projects that you're working on currently.
Good morning, Matt. Thank you so much for having me on your show this morning. So yes, I just recently published The Broken Whistle, a Deep State Run Amok. Came out on 19 February. Has been running as one of the top new releases in civil rights law in Amazon Kindle. It's available hardback, paperback, and ebook. BrokenWhistleBook.com. BrokenWhistleBook.com is a perfect link to find the links to purchase the book. So this has been my priority for the near future here. And I'm also working on a follow-on add-on to the book, a documentary called Deep State Gangsters. So far, it's featuring my story, the story of John Kiriakou, another CIA whistleblower, Nate Kane, another whistleblower. He's running for Congress, West Virginia, congressional seat 3. And we're looking for another whistleblower. The documentary is basically the abuse of government power, particularly the persecution of whistleblowers. Those are really my main focus, but I'm also an ordained minister, and I've got an evangelistic association at 501c3, and hoping to get back out into the field. I spent 2 months in Tanzania 2 years ago, and there are opportunities for me to continue to work with Christ for All Nations based out of Orlando, doing more evangelistic work, if not in person, supporting them financially. And you can find more details at my website, pedroisraelorta.com, pedroisraelorta.com.
Well, Pedro, you have such an interesting background, and you obviously have a lot going on. I want to address a leadership principle that is really, I think, your sweet spot, speaking truth to power. I think all great leaders need to do that, but few do. And then one thing that I like to share in the show is that everybody's a leader. Just because you're not at the top of the org chart doesn't mean you can't lead. Tell us about this statement, speaking truth to power, and how it resonates with you.
It's a tall task, a mandated task to do the right thing at all times, even when nobody is looking. In my case, I was just doing my job. That's all I was doing. I was a manager, a deputy chief of base in a war zone, and I was mandated by laws to basically call out things that needed to be called out. Our lives were being put in danger through just plain stupidity. Unfortunately, the chief of base, nice lady, very qualified in some endeavors in some fields, but well out of her place in this particular post in the war zone. And I spoke up about certain things that needed to be spoken about. And unfortunately, one thing led to another and caused me to basically be fired from that job. And that's a whole nother story that leads into just an avalanche, a snowball increasing in size of reprisals. But the point is, we're all required to do the right thing. And the right thing is very simple. Do good to your neighbor. Treat others as you want to be treated. And, when we see wrong and we turn a blind eye, we are being a participant in the evil. I could not turn a blind eye and not speak up, particularly when at the end of the day, what happened was a subordinate was being harassed and they wanted to basically fire him. So I basically took a bullet for a subordinate in a way that put me on the X, where I was the one basically that got hung. And I could go on and on and on. But for all of us listening, the point I want to make is that you are a leader, as Matt is saying. You're called to lead where you're at. And you lead not just by saying, but at the end of the day, again, I use that word at the end of the day, what matters most is what we do. We can talk the talk, but if we don't walk the talk, we're being hypocrites.
That's right.
And society needs less hypocrites and more righteous persons who are doers rather than sayers. And I'll stop there because I can keep on going.
Now, your book is about a CIA whistleblower. Was this the same incident that prompted you to write the book, or are there additional incidents?
Oh, there's additional incidents because eventually what happened is I blew the whistle on waste, fraud, significant abuses of authority, significant specific endangerment of public safety. Basically, I spoke truth to power.
Right.
I spoke up. And when you speak up, you're basically blowing the whistle. Mm-hmm. You're a truth teller. I told the truth.
Right.
And what happened was instead of trying to fix small problems that could have easily have been fixed, they created a mountain out of a molehill. And it just snowballed and increased in size. And eventually I ended up basically blowing the whistle on the broken whistle. What I mean by that is your ability to speak truth to power, to tell leadership something that they need to hear, is broken because they don't want to hear about it. And in the process of you speaking up, they end up taking reprisals against you. They basically, every element of the CIA that could have easily fixed this problem, whether it was EEO, the Inspector General, the grievance process, human resources, my own career service, all these elements basically became elements of a bureaucratic bullying campaign to silence and destroy me, to get me to quit, to leave, resign. And because I chose not to quit, leave, or resign, but I chose to now blow the whistle to the higher ups, then they came after me to bully me and beat me with the Office of Security, calling me basically an insider threat and threatening to take my job from me. And that's what they did. They basically kicked me out.
You know, Pedro, I find it very interesting as I was preparing for this interview, and we have about a minute to go before break. But I found this on the IG website, and it's from IG Thomas Monheim, if I pronounce his name. And it says, whistleblowers are vital to the IC's mission. Whistleblowers lawfully share information about potential wrongdoing by mismanagement, gross waste of funds, abuse of authority, and dangers of public health or safety. And it goes down the line. These protections include Community Directive 120. It goes down the line. Whistleblowing also promotes the principles of professional ethics for the intelligence community, particularly the principles of lawlessness, integrity, and stewardship. Whistleblowing also is consistent with the ODNI's core values, including courage. What say you? What do you say to that? That's what I thought.
That's just a lot of ink on paper, pretty letters that are worthless and unenforceable, as I found out, because they don't want to enforce it, because they basically don't want people telling them we got a serious problem here. And he is right. These procedures and processes are extremely important because we've had intelligence failures or catastrophic effects on lives. 9/11.
Well, I'm going to interrupt. We've got a lot more to cover. Let's go to break. And when we come back, Pedro's going to discuss the greatest rebound of his life. The Rebound is sponsored by Sector Spider ETFs, a unique family of exchange-traded funds that divide the S&P 500 into 11 sector index funds. You can buy just the sectors you like or customize the S&P 500 by weighting the 11 sectors to meet your financial objective. Please visit them on the web at sectorspiders.com. That's sector, SPDRS.com.
Alps Portfolio Solutions Distributor, a registered broker-dealer, is the distributor for the Select Sector Spider Trust.
Pedro, welcome back. Tell us about the biggest rebound in your life. And you know what? The ball might still be in the air and you're just trying to get position. Maybe you haven't rebounded it yet. You're in the process. You're getting in position for the rebound. Tell us what that is.
Well, this entire process of how the CIA, the Office of Inspector Generals, they actually put an investigation against me with the Inspector Generals. It's a long story. It took a whole book to tell it. I hit just rock bottom. I mean, we're talking about rock bottom where I'm at the bottom of the barrel. There's nothing left to scratch. This would have been summer 2018, just after I was notified I was fired. That I wouldn't be effective for a couple months, but I had a serious shoulder injury and I'm alone. I had to basically send my daughter to Colombia with her mother.
Wow.
And I'm alone. Emotionally, I was put through the ringer.
Well, why did you send your wife and daughter to Colombia? And we're talking Colombia, South America. We're not talking Colombia, South Carolina.
The ordeal that we went through as a family with the job, to make it short, because I can go on for a long time.
We've got about 11 minutes here, so I want the audience to hear it, but more importantly, I want them to feel what you went through.
I was the head of the household on a single income family with a Colombian national who became a U.S. citizen, and our daughter, basically pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade. They went back and forth between Colombia and Virginia, Colombia a lot. We were separated in 2009 because that's another incident where just poor management in a station. I call that station Potemkin Station, just to give you an idea. And we're talking about just feckless management. And I let their own actions speak for themselves with story after story after story what they did. So basically, I had 3-year tour. They canceled my 3rd-year extension. So I left after 2 years. My daughter was born in Colombia, and we were separated basically for the entire year. And between one thing and another, by the time I finally got them relocated to Virginia, would have been almost 3-4 years later. And very expensive area to live in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
I mean, we have a toll road that you could be spending $15 to $20 a day commuting on that toll road, just to give you an idea.
I understand.
They take advantage of people there because they know that there's high tech, there's government employees. In a lot of instances, you've got a dual income household where the income potential is $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. So they take advantage. And if you're a single income, you're limited to doing a lot of overseas time, TDYs and so forth. So I badly needed that Afghanistan tour. And when they took that Afghanistan tour from me, it just caused a lot of hardships where I had to pull my daughter out of a special needs school that she needed, put her in a public school that at the time was not the right thing to do. My wife wasn't able to continue her training and education to get her medical license process going in the United States. It just became a situation where it was best for my now ex-wife to go on back to Colombia. And consequently, it was best for my daughter to go to Colombia. So that caused a lot of separation. And obviously at some point in time, a divorce. And I've been separated from my daughter since basically when she moved back, June of 2017. And I have to deal with my daughter every summer and winter when I see her basically twice a year, just bawling and crying, that she misses me. Right. We've had some very difficult goodbyes through the years. And it's every year, every time I say goodbye. I mean, I have to deal with this girl basically just crying, missing me. And this is not good for her. I mean, for me, I've had to deal with plenty of hardships in my life, but my goodness, we're talking about, a girl that's from 5 to now 14, having to deal with this nonsense. And she never should have been going through this. I made this very easy for the CIA to resolve. Just give me a job that will meet my, career needs, family needs. And the worst thing about it is they had plenty of jobs. They're constantly crying out to Congress, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough foreign language speakers. You already had the foreign language, the skills, and so forth. And they wouldn't even give me a job. I got chased out of the CIA. and I
So
had to take shelter in the office.
what did they try to label you, and what was the lowest point? Tell me a story of when it really hit you like, I don't know if I can get through this. What was the story, a description of the lowest moment for you back around 2018?
2017, 2018, this time frame. Right before I got fired, I had more job denials. I had the CIAIG claiming they finally investigated, but they did not investigate fully, not looking at all the evidence, and it was a sham investigation. I have proof of that. And they launched a counter investigation against me. While I worked at the IG, they were saying that I was in there lacking independence. So here I am, absolutely stretched. And it continues to snowball and get worse until eventually I got fired in 2018 on paper. Now, the final date is still debatable, whether it's October 2018 or January 2019 when I got the official notification. But then I got a shoulder surgery. So now I'm having to go through a difficult shoulder surgery alone, the recuperation period, being fired, not being able to retain a new attorney. They refused to allow me to retain a new attorney. They came up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And it was this fall of 2018 where I was basically at the end of the rope. Got fired, bad shoulder recuperation, no resolution to the reprisals, no investigation on the follow-on reprisals, absolutely nothing I can do about it. They wouldn't let me take a new attorney. When I finally hired that attorney, when they finally approved it, was after I was fired. And they had the audacity to tell the attorney, well, we got nothing to discuss. He was fired.
Mm-hmm.
Duh.
And
I'm basically, yeah, exactly.
And your wife and daughter moved to Colombia, so you're by yourself going through this.
I'm by myself going through this. I'm also an outcast per se.
Yeah.
Nobody from my ex-employer wanted to talk to me. In some ways, I needed to protect them as well. So I was completely alone without my daughter,
Right.
my wife, recuperating from the shoulder surgery. Basically at that point in time, I knew I had to get out of Washington, D.C. And by the grace of God, I had some people that I knew in Tulsa who helped me to basically buy a house and move to Tulsa without even looking at the house. And that's how I began my basically rebound.
We all need encouragers and our supporters in our life. And it's interesting, I'm sure, as you're going through that, who didn't step up and support you and who did. Who were these people in Tulsa, and what kind of relationship, what was their relationship to you at that time?
Well, God is always working. And if we learn how to follow his steps, he will take care of us. In the mid-1990s, I got connected with a group here in Tulsa, Faith Christian Fellowship at the time, Buddy and Pat Harrison. And through this organization, I met some ministers, Charlie and Lojuana Moore. And miraculously, by the grace of God, as I began to go through this ordeal in the CIA in 2015, I reunited with them in April of 2015 at a event in Fort Worth, Texas. And we kept in touch. And in the process of keeping in touch, I had told them, that post-CIA, potentially could see myself moving to Tulsa. So I reached out to them in late 2018, early 2019, and they helped me to find a property that, again, God working, basically. I found a property quickly, and I was able to, through their help, make sure everything was fine, make the offer, and even close on it without being in person. And that's how I got to Tulsa.
So God puts us in these situations. Why? Why do you think, and when you get to heaven, you'll probably ask God, I think I know why you put me through this in 2018, but I just want validation. If you were to be able to have a conversation with God right now, we do, right? You have conversations. What's his response to you to the question of why did I go through this in 2018? What's God's response to you?
Well, the Bible makes it clear that righteous people will suffer persecution. When you choose to do right, when you choose to do good, in an evil society, there's going to be backlash. And you cannot allow that backlash or the potential of backlash to stop you from doing what is right. Because basically, we all answer to God. And one day we're going to face him.
Right.
And in this particular case, I mean, I could have easily saved my job. I could have just keep my lips sealed, close my eyes, close my ears, and done absolutely nothing about what I saw wrong at that base in Afghanistan in 2015. But had I done that, I would have been a party to a crime of falsely accusing a man and getting him fired. And they actually try to cajole and coerce me to take an unrighteous judgment against this individual.
Wow.
And I chose to speak up to do what was right. So I believe God will say, well done, good and faithful servant.
I love it.
Now,
I love it. Let me ask you a question. Can you share the name of that person you were kind of defending?
At this point in time, I probably shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah, because
fair question. My question then is, are you in touch with that man? Has he reached out and thanked you for his support, your support?
Well, yes, I've been in touch with him through the years. And actually, on my way out of Afghanistan, he and I basically got taken out of that base. His supervisor came down with security to take him off that base. When we got to Kabul, his boss shook my hand and said, thank you for standing up and speaking up for my employee. That saved him because they wanted to send him home. That's how bad it was.
Mm-hmm. Righteous people will suffer persecution. Buddy and Pat Harrison, what do you think your purpose is on this earth?
Our purpose on this earth is to model the life of Jesus. Love your neighbor as yourself. Hear the voice of the Lord and speak what he tells you to speak and do what he tells you to do. And, we will answer to him in our afterlife. Christianity is death to self. You're not looking out for yourself. You're looking out for the interest of our Lord Jesus Christ. And we must heed his voice, no matter the cost. Yes, there are blessings, but sometimes we forget to discuss the persecution and the evil we may go through. We live in an evil world. Mm-hmm. There is a devil out there, and he seeks to kill, steal, and destroy. And it's not as simple as you can flee evil from the perspective of flee persecution. Sometimes you got to go right through it.
That's right.
Look at Daniel in the lion's den. Right. When he was told don't pray, he opened his windows up and prayed loudly. Yeah. Look at the three that went into the fiery furnace. They said, hey, we're not going to bow down to your God. We're going to go into the fiery furnace. If God delivers us, great. If he doesn't, well, we'll burn.
Well, Pedro, you're an inspiration to me, and I'm sure you're an inspiration to many that are sharing in this experience through the Rebound. Thank you for joining us today, Pedro. Great perspective on speaking truth to power. Leadership is a learned behavior. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. I challenge you to rebound. I challenge you to learn and grow. Leadership is a learned behavior. You're a leader, whether you're a parent, a coach, a business owner, or a friend. We all lead in some way, shape, or form. Thanks for listening. I welcome any and all feedback. You can reach me at dohertycoaching.com.